we've got to find a way to make it happen, whether it is in the Middle East or in Las Vegas or in Singapore. It's the only way our game's going to grow and gain the recognition it deserves, as long as we need to be part of these big events.
Well, hello everybody and welcome back to Back 10 here at All Out Rugby League. We are back home in our studio, but it does look slightly different. We are one man down as our All Out Rugby League's Josh McAllister is currently sat in the air on his way out to Vegas. Clearly wasn't enough budget for myself and our guest this week. It is none other than a Leeds Rhinos Rugby League royalty legend, whatever you want to call him, 8-time Super League Grand Final winner in Danny McGuire. Magsy, obviously Vegas week. You will be going out there.
I will be going.
But yeah, no budget for me. But we'll move on from that. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, do you know what? Really, really excited. There's not many things that I miss about playing now I'm retired. But I think I am envious of the players that get an opportunity to play on this huge stage. Great occasion. Obviously, NRL teams are there. And I think this is probably one of the things that I do miss now, obviously old and retired and not able to do it. So I'm a bit envious of the players, the opportunity that they get. But I suppose the other side of that, I've got to think about I can have a few more Bud Lights than them. So swings and roundabouts. But yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be a really good few days. I think there's nearly 10,000 fans apparently, Hull KR and Leeds fans. So I imagine it's going to be pretty raucous and fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, look, I'm sure you are. I'm very much jealous of all the players, coaching staff, and all you fans as well who may be heading out there. But don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything here at All Out Rugby League. Remember, on the comments below, if you swipe to the left, you'll reveal that hype button. You can hit that hype button up to 3 times a week, and that will help us grow much, much bigger, much, much quicker as well. Keep liking, keep subscribing, get us towards 10,000 subscribers. Now, let's get into the show. Well, really, there is only one way to start in this Vegas special, and that is to mention and congratulate as well Hull KR, World Club Champions, and what a game it was. Written off by many, self included. I'll happily apologise for that, but what a performance from Willie Peters' men once again.
Yeah, outstanding. Obviously, I've got a soft spot for Rovers, having spent a good few years there after I left Leeds, and I just thought it was really, really good to see. Most people that I'd spoke to in the lead up to the game were expecting a huge Brisbane win, and I couldn't quite see it, to be honest. And I know after the event it's easy for me to say now, but I felt like, in my experiences of the World Club Challenge, the Australian teams are always a little bit cold to start with. They always take a bit of time to, I suppose, find the feet in the game, and I suppose the only thing for me was Hull KR to take advantage of the slow start, which they did. Brisbane came home strong, but ultimately I just thought it was a really good, disciplined, energetic, professional performance from Hull KR, and they really deserved it. I thought Jez Litton were unbelievable, coming off his sickbed to play like he did. But I think it was a really strong team performance, and Brisbane are littered with some of the best players in the world. But I thought they deserved it, and I think it's great for our game.
Magsy, look, we've both played in World Club Challenges. Mine obviously wasn't the best showing, 39-0 to Souths. But put yourself or just for our listeners and viewers at home, what's the mentality like going into because you've played in a few of them now, haven't you? So put us into the mentality of when you're on top in them games, and what does that feel like?
I think the games are hard, really, because I feel like you're wanting, the Australian game is always seen as the ultimate, and I think as an English team you always feel a bit hard done. So you always feel that you are playing for the whole country, really. So I just felt like you've got to start well in them games. Ultimately, you've got to start well. Like I said before, I think the Australians always take a little bit of time to adjust to the conditions. It's always in January, February time of year, so the weather, is not ideal for what they've been training at in obviously in their pre-season. So I think the start is really important, and I think once you get hold of it, you've got to take advantage of it. And I thought that's what Hull KR did really well at the weekend. They were really disciplined with a plan. And Willie Peters is one of the most detailed coaches I've ever come across. And Hull KR kept just kicking to corners, didn't they? They kept putting Reece Walsh in a corner, forcing errors, and they were able to take advantage with the tries that they got off kicks. So I think there's a lot of pressure in them games, and it's really hard to, I suppose, get yourself up for such a big game in the early part of the season. But I thought Hull KR did it really well.
And what made it even more special was the fact that they were way off in round one, weren't they? And that added almost to everybody thinking that the Broncos were just going to turn up and sort of and do a number on them. But you mentioned there, you mentioned Jez Litton. A lot was made about Mikey Lewis. We got to speak to Adam Reynolds and Michael McGuire on last week's Back 10 show, and they mentioned those guys. But I just want to give a special mention to Dean Hadley. I thought he was sensational, and you've worked with Dean Hadley, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's he like as a player?
He's a champion. He's a warrior, and I think he can play. He's just a good rugby league player. But I think what the biggest quality that I would say about Dino is he's humble. He's really humble. He's hardworking. Sometimes he goes a little bit unnoticed in practice. You be training, and Dino doesn't do a lot of the flashy stuff. He makes his tackles. He carries the ball. He's relentless in his work rate, and he's just so consistent. I think that's probably what. I remember meeting him when he was at Hull FC and persuading him to come across to the dark side, to Rovers. And I saw that potential there. My manager Craig Harrison, who was looking after him, saw that potential there, and I just think he needed an opportunity. And we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, he's been one of the most consistent players in the competition, and tough as well. Obviously, his eye. Yeah. The weekend was out there, and you wouldn't know with Dino. Never complains, just gets on with it. He's the ultimate professional. It
was interesting. Left out of the England squad last year. We won't go over and cry over spilt milk, but one of the reasons was that there was question marks whether he could handle it on the big occasions. Well, 4 trophies in the bag for Dean Hanley, and a performance like that in a World Club Challenge. I think it answers a couple of those questions, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And when I got asked about it last year, I thought he'd slot into an England team really well. You need people that can work and just go unnoticed a little bit, and then you sort of George Williamses, your Mikey Lewis can do their stuff, and people like Dean Hadley are gold dust in teams.
Absolutely. Look, 3 wins on the bounce, Magsy. Last question before we move on and get into Vegas. 3 wins on the bounce for English Super League clubs in the World Club Challenge. Does that change the Aussies' approach to these games? Does it sort of does it bang the drum that maybe? In fact, I read a brilliant comment straight after full time. Somebody said maybe Super League should buy the NRL. So, what do you think? What do you think it's going to do for the game moving forward?
I think it's really good for our game. It gives us prestige and, lets the Australians know that we are serious. Is it slightly favoured towards ourselves? I think it probably is. The Aussies having to travel and come over and play in tough conditions in January or February. I think it's heavily favoured towards us, but ultimately you've still got to turn up and play well and take advantage. We played some of the great Melbourne teams and some of the great Manly teams back in the day, and they were always ready and prepared. They have had 2 or 3 months at pre-season. They're fit and strong and physical. So I don't think you can make too many excuses. But if we are honest, it is favoured towards the English teams. But we've got to keep taking advantage of that.
Well, Magsy, you're right to mention you had a foot in the Hull KR camp, but you are very much back in the Leeds Rhinos setup. First of all, how's preparations gone? How did everyone pull up from the weekend just gone there?
Yeah, I thought it was a really strong performance on Friday night against I suppose a York team that had obviously played really well the week before against Hull KR. I thought Leeds were really strong. York started pretty well. They were very physical, and I think York probably struggle a little bit when their experienced players come off. McShane and Paul Vaughan came off, and then Leeds kind of took advantage there. It was nice to see Jake Connor back out there. I really feel like he sort of has a really calming influence on the team and allows Brodie Croft to sort of, I suppose, play his natural game. He was very strong. But overall, it was a really strong Leeds performance. I think they came away injury-free, which is all, I know the commercial team at Leeds were having a bit of a headache over flights and potential injuries for Las Vegas. But, fingers crossed, I think they came through, pretty well and, should have a good squad going across to Las Vegas.
And Mika Sivo grabbing a brace as well.
He was good. And I think the last thing you want when you come from overseas he's an injury straight away. I think it's really tough. Obviously, he had an ACL in his first, in a friendly last year. So it was really nice to see him back out there. Again, you have to look at his highlight reel from his days at Parramatta, and he's a wrecking ball, and he's very strong. And I think any time he gets the ball close to the line, he's pretty much unstoppable, as we saw on Friday night. He carried well from yardage, and I think he's going to be a really good addition to the team.
Well, look, Magsy, you'll be getting on a plane shortly yourself with the rest of the Leeds Rhinos crew and heading out there. Does the club see this as a big game? Is it Brad Arthur looking at this as a big game mentality? But it is only still 2 points at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Leeds and Hull KR now there's definitely a rivalry sort of building and building behind the scenes. I think both clubs get on really well. They've worked really well together to pull this game together. Hull KR obviously using it as one of their home games. So I think it's any game on an occasion like we're going to see in Las Vegas is big, but ultimately it is for 2 points. It's different.
But that's what I mean. Is the occasion making this game bigger than what it actually is?
Yeah, potentially. Ultimately, it is 2 points. But I think when the world's watching, obviously NRL are hosting the game. There's going to be a lot more eyes on both teams. I think it's great for the club. I think it's great for both clubs. It's great for our game that we're trying to take it sort of worldwide, and I think it'll be an unbelievable occasion in Las Vegas. The stadium looks outstanding, and like I said, there's going to be a huge following out there from both teams. So, although it is only 2 points, I think the occasion is different. And like I said before, I think I'm as an ex-player, it's one of the games that I'm envious that you can't be part of, and I think it'll be a really good occasion.
OKR, Leeds had done a number on OKR over the last couple of games, haven't they? I think back to that game towards the end of the season, it was probably the best I'd saw the Rhinos play. They completely obliterated Hull KR that night. So, again, going back into your Hull KR days, you'll know Willie Peters will be using that fuel, won't he?
Yeah, he certainly will. And Willie will be leaving no stone unturned. I know their preparation will be as good as it can be. After I suppose on the back of a World Cup challenge, the questions are of celebrations and fatigue, and how do you overcome such a big win and then back it up the next week. But I think another good occasion. I think Hull KR will be up for it. I really do. I don't think we'll see any fatigue or any what's the other word? Any problems this week. I think it's probably going to be more further down the line. And Willie, he's the ultimate, like I said before, he's the ultimate coach. He's really detailed in his preparation, and I'm sure they'll be prepared, just as Leeds will be. Yeah,
well, look, you're right again to mention about the effect that Hull KR have had to go through over the first couple of weeks. But just looking at Leeds, then the occasion that we spoke about, is this a chance for Brad Arthur to prepare or use this as preparation for a big game that may hopefully come for the Rhinos towards the end of the year?
I mean, ultimately, that's where Leeds want to be. I think the expectations at the club are to be involved in them big games, involved in finals, involved in semi-finals, and I think this is a different feel. This is something different. This has almost got the feel of a big game. We keep going back to it's only 2 points, but a different stadium. You're on the road. Your preparation's different. It was almost like a semi-final or a final feel. So I think it's good practice. It's really good practice for the players to be able to, I suppose, deal with it. Get in the right mindset and then perform well when you're under pressure. So that's the challenge for Leeds. Hull KR are the team to beat at the minute.
So Magsy, you've obviously played all over the world. You've been away from home, playing in big games. What would you say to some of your more inexperienced lads? How do you go about influence their preparation ahead of a game like this?
Yeah, I suppose it's a good question. Everything's different. I think each player's got his own way of preparing for games. Some are very sort of rigid and strict in the way that they like to do things. Some are a bit freer, and nothing kind of phases them. And I look at some of the younger players nowadays, and I don't think they're too fussed, to be honest with you. They're happy watching TikTok and YouTube, and I don't think anything really phases the younger players nowadays. But again, I think this is really good practice for both teams. Like you say, travelling to the other side of the world. Probably a bit of jet lag, different food. So I just think it's really good practice for what you might be faced with when you do play for England or Great Britain or you're in a final, it's almost the same feel. So Leeds have got a lot of experienced players. Ryan Hall, Callum Watkins, they've been there and done everything. So I'm sure they'll be offering good advice to some of the younger players, and Hull KR are the same. They're littered with players that have played in big games. So I don't think it'll affect the teams, and it's a great chance to shine while the world's watching.
Well, you mentioned about bigger games coming ahead and hopefully trophies. It is only round 2, but is this a yardstick to against the world champions, the all-conquering side from last season? Do the Rhinos have to win this game in order to cement themselves as proper contenders this year?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I feel like Leeds are contenders. I really do. We're really early in the season, aren't we?
Yes.
We're 3 rounds in, so teams are still finding their feet, still working on combinations. A few teams have got injuries, so at this point of the year, I probably wouldn't look too deep. But ultimately, Hull KR are the benchmark out there. So if Leeds can go there and play well and get a win, Hull KR will still be winless. And be 4 points clear of a team that you would be saying are title challengers. So it is a big game. It is a big game, but again, I wouldn't be looking too deep at the result. This time of the year, it's about performance in building combinations and, I suppose still finding your feet a little bit. But, I think it's a good challenge for both teams.
Well, I mentioned that it was round 2 for Hull KR men, round 3 obviously for the Rhinos. Magsy, does Brad Arthur, difficult question for you to answer, I understand, does he have to win a trophy this season? It's difficult to answer, but I always try and say what I think and give an honest answer. And I think the expectations at Leeds are to be successful and to win. And speaking to Brad a little bit, he's very, very determined to bring success back to Leeds. He's a disciplinarian. He's a very tough coach. He knows his style and the way that he wants his players to play. He's very demanding. And I think that's exactly what Leeds needed at the time. And he's definitely, the team and the club's definitely on an upward curve. And obviously being back there for the last few months, I've seen that, and the way that he goes about things, he's got an aura about him. And, I feel like they're in a really good position to attack it this year. I do. I think they've got a really good mix of experience and some really good young players coming through. So I think it's a perfect time to attack it. And I feel like they'll be up there contending at the end of the year. So what's been your standout from what you saw last year to this year? Where are the big improvements been, you feel, for the Rhinos in 2026?
I think last year they were in every contest, weren't they? If you look across the board and, the games that they lost, it was only by, a try here and there. And, I think the culture and the way, I'm not a big fan of culture, but the environment that they've got at the Rhinos at the minute is a tough environment. They work hard, they're committed, and Brad's really brought that to the club. And I think it's just probably, Brad speaks about it a fair bit, is icing them moments, which at times they probably just didn't do last year. And I think a year more experience on some of them younger players will help as well. So I just think they're in a really good position to go after it this year. And Hull KR are strong, Wigan are strong, Saints are strong, but for me, they're probably in the best position they have been for a number of years.
Well, last time we had you on, you'd not long since left Castleford. It was great to get your opinion. Obviously, a number of months have flown by now. You are back at the Rhinos. Just, I suppose, really, how did that come about? And then the second part to it is, how grateful are you to be back at such a big club like Leeds?
Yeah, really grateful, to be honest with you. I think I probably needed to leave at the time. I'd been at the club from 12 to 35, and I think it's a long time to be at one place. So I felt like moving and experiencing what I did at Hull KR and then Castleford was good for me. Good experience. I learned a lot. It made me a better person. But I think when you go home, you get that feeling, don't you, that where you're happy and you're at your best. And I feel like that's when I'm back at the Rhinos. So I'm enjoying my job. It's a bit different, more in rugby league development, a little bit different to what I've obviously been used to as a player and as a coach. A little bit of commercial stuff with the Rhinos team, but it's going really well. I'm enjoying it, and I think coaching, what happened at Castleford probably scarred me a little bit. So I'm just taking a little bit of time to assess and sort of see where I'm at. But at the minute, everything's going really well.
So what excites Danny McGuire moving into 2026? What's the most exciting thing that you think that's gonna happen this season?
I feel like I was just really excited to see Super League come back. I think there's. The off season for me seemed like it was dragging. I know we had the series, against Australia at the end, and I think that obviously that being disappointing left a little bit of a bitter taste in rugby league's fans' mouths, really, because obviously we didn't feel like England did themselves justice. So I was just excited to see the game back. I'm excited to see the game speed up, and some of the new rules that we're bringing in regarding the rucks and the video ref times and stuff. I think, for me, the game over the last couple of years was just getting a little bit stop-start. We were just talking about it off air before, and ultimately our games are fast-paced and exciting, and when you speak to people, that's what they love about it, and I think we'd kind of gone away from that a little bit. We'd slowed the game down, and we'd lost a bit of that excitement. I want to get that back. I want to get that buzz back, and over the first few rounds, some of the games have been good, and I think we're still finding our feet a little bit, but we just want to see our superstars playing well and and selling a really good product that we all know that we've got.
And you mentioned there about the ruck speed; it has noticeably increased. And Magsy, you were a guy that scored a boatload of tries. Probably could have got a few more if you'd have been playing now, couldn't you?
100%, yeah.
But yeah, look, it opens up for nines, fullbacks, the halfbacks. Yeah, I think it's been brilliant to watch so far. Long may it continue as well.
Again, we want to see our best players given the best opportunities, don't we? And everybody's got a role within rugby league. The middles have to get down and play the ball quick to be able to create opportunities for your sort of go-to players, your ones, your sixes, your sevens, your nines, and they're the players that I love seeing get on the ball and love seeing creating opportunities for other people. And I think that's what'll happen with the rucks now. We'll start to see some of our superstars, get more opportunities and hopefully, be a better spectacle for everybody to watch.
I think it's about more moments of bums off seats is what I like to call it. I think over the last couple of years, there'll be a number that are missing out, but Bevan French was probably the standout one that would get your bum out the chair. Yeah. And I think the faster rucks are going to make nines jump out quicker. They're going to look what Kai Taylor-Ray did. We want more moments like that when he just ripped through St Helens twice. Yeah. Those are the moments you want, isn't it?
I just think, obviously I've got my coaching head on a little bit now, when it's about finishing your sets in the right area and kicking for territory, and that's always going to be the game. You have to think about some of these things alongside some of the special things that you want to see as well, and I suppose that's the balance for the coaches. Do we give the players freedom and let them express themselves, let them find some offloads and find that extra pass, or do we still kick to corners and still be disciplined? And I think it's a balance. It's like anything in life.
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned there about Vegas, and the quicker rucks, yes, but the weather as well. That's going to play a part. And so who stands up in this game this weekend? Who is going to grab? Who's going to grab Vegas by the bullhorns?
Yeah, I think, dry conditions. I think the weather's like 25, 26 degrees. So I've packed my sun cream, ready to go. But I think that suits your Mavericks, doesn't it? It suits your players with speed. Lockie Miller was really good at the weekend, and Brodie Croft was strong. Jake Connor sort of steadied the ship, that linchpin in the Leeds team. So, I really think that suits Leeds. But then you look at Hulkiar as well, and you look at Mikey Lewis, the speed that he's got, Jeslett and the way he plays. Whoever jumps in at full back at Hulkiar will have some opportunities as well. So I think it suits both teams. I think both teams are littered with players that like to play that fast pace, off the cuff style of rugby league. So I think it'll be a great game on Saturday.
Magsy, you've been there as a player, won a World Club Challenge, jumping off the success they had last year. I'm just thinking as a player, it's going to be hard to keep a lid on them how they're feeling as they head over to Vegas. And I suppose, is it probably the best time for the Rhinos to play against Hull KR? Because Look, I know Willie Peters is, and you do as well. He's a hard taskmaster, but there's been an awful lot of success and emotion that's going through those Hull KR players,
and a few beers as well, probably,
and a few beers as well. So is it a great opportunity for the Rhinos to take them on?
Yeah, it is, and obviously I think a few injuries as well. Arthur Morg went off injured. Dean Hadley obviously with the fractured cheekbone. Leeds coming through unscathed, so you'd have to say it would be favoured towards Leeds.
Yeah.
And the emotion and the roller coaster that Hull KR went through the week before, you would be favouring Leeds. But again, the way that Hull KR are able to, at times, I suppose, overachieve a little bit or prove people wrong, and I know for a fact Willie will be eyeing this game up, and generally through experience, it's normally a few weeks down the line that you do feel the fatigue of a World Cup challenge, and the emotion and everything that's associated with it catches up with you. But the challenge for Hull KR is to be able to peak for a World Cup challenge, a Challenge Cup and a Grand Final, and that's not easy. We've been involved in teams where you've had to do that, and your season sort of, you've got to find ways to manage the season, and that's going to be the challenge.
It is, but the pitchforks are out, aren't they? For Hull KR, if they were to come back and then go to, I think they go to Huddersfield away, and if they do pick up a couple of losses, we as media and everybody else, they start to want to see the fall of the big clubs, don't they? So they've got to prepare themselves for that, but I'm pretty much sure that they'll block that out and just get on with their own job, won't they?
I think that's probably the challenge for Hull KR. They're now going to be a team that's hunted. I think when you're successful and you're at the top of your game and you're involved in these big games, the other clubs recognise that, and I suppose always are raising the game, and that's the challenge for Hull KR. Now they have to understand that, learn from it, work how to adapt to it as well, and going to Vegas after a World Cup challenge is going to take a lot out of the tank, but the resources and the way that they do things at Hull KR, I'm sure they're able to find a way to overcome it.
Will there be any opportunity for downtime for yourselves and the players while you're there? Obviously, look, they've got to take everything in, right? It may never happen again, a trip out to Vegas. How do you deal with that as coaching staff?
I think it's a challenge. I really do. I feel like...
Because sometimes we're just a bit too serious, aren't we?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As obviously, look, Brad Arthur's only bothered about going there and getting 2 points, right? But there is, I think sometimes, or certainly towards the back end of my career, it almost, I'm not going to say the fun got taken out of it, but it was very much, it's this every day. Do you know what I mean? Rather than being able to enjoy it.
I think it's balance again. I really do. I think it's getting it right. And, the bright lights of Las Vegas, it's going to be really hard for the players to ignore that. Ultimately, they're going to be staying in these big hotels with casinos and bars, and the players are not going to, are human, and like a beer, like to relax, and I feel like it's just doing it at the right time, just getting there at the right time. I assume maybe a beer to relax when they get there, and a celebratory beer after the game, win, lose or draw. That's kind of how I'd be looking at if I was a coach or if I was in charge. Some of the other coaches might have a different feel or a different view on it, but you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it, and I think professional. You've got to do the right thing. You've got to look after yourself and train and be committed and do the right things off the field. But whether it is a little go on roulette or a beer here and there, the players are smart enough, and as long as it's not affecting performance, I think the staff of both clubs will have it in order, I'm pretty sure.
So would a 20-year-old Danny Maguire, would he like the trip down to Vegas?
I would have loved a trip to Las Vegas. The 43-year-old Danny Maguire loves a trip to Las Vegas.
Brilliant. Well, look, we've heard or read reports this week that although there is a 5-year deal with the NRL for Las Vegas, that they talk about cutting it short, Magsy. Next year may be the last year. It'll be the 3rd year that they've been there. Good move for the game. There's been talk about Peter V'landys has mentioned maybe about taking the game into the Middle East or into Hong Kong. I know Ian McManus he's thrown his hat in about talking about playing in Hong Kong. Where'd you sit with it all?
Yeah, I think it'd be a shame. It'd be a shame if it didn't continue. It seems to be, a fixture that's in the calendar that people are looking forward to now. And obviously Wigan and Warrington went last year. Hull KR and Leeds this year. I just think we've got to look at the bigger picture, haven't we, as a game? And I understand financially it's probably not beneficial to some clubs to take a game to Las Vegas, but surely we've got to find a way to make it happen, because it's a really big occasion. We're showcasing the greatest game on one of the biggest stages, and as a competition, Super League needs to be part of that for me, and we have to find a way to do it. I've read St Helens and Hull next year. I think that'd be great. I really do. I think Hull travel really well, Saints travel really well, and I think if you ask both sets of fans, I'm pretty sure they'd be ready to book if it got announced. So we've got to find a way to make it happen, whether it is in the Middle East or in Las Vegas or in Singapore. It's the only way our game's going to grow and gain the recognition it deserves, as long as we need to be part of these big events.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I've got a lot of mates who some are going out this week on a bit of a lads trip as well, and speaking to them and speaking to colleagues at Sky Sports who'd been out there as well last year, they said that the atmosphere, particularly amongst the English fans, was second to none. And we ask a lot of our fans, don't we, to put our hands in the pockets to go Magic Weekend, to go to Challenge Cup finals and Grand Finals, and then an international if there is there. These days out or these experiences are sensational for them, aren't they? So the longer we can keep doing things like that, the better, really, right?
I think so. Our rugby league fans always find a way, don't they? We like a whinge about extra expenses, or if clubs are 4 shirts in a year, the fans like to moan, but they'll still buy the shirts because they love the clubs, they love the game, and we find a way to get there. And everybody I've spoke to over the last few weeks has spoke to me about going to Las Vegas, spoke to me about how excited they are, how much they're looking forward to it. There's probably some of the other things apart from the rugby league as well, some of the things that Las Vegas offers, but that's the beauty of this week, is that some people are going to take a holiday and have some experiences while they're there, but taking the rugby alongside that. And I think it's a great occasion that we should be looking to build on.
You talked there about St Helens and Hull for next year, but there's been reports as well that Hull FC, Magsy, they're not as keen as what we thought they might be for next season. Looking at it from a sort of a commercial or a business perspective, they lose a home game, don't they? Yeah. And I don't think, from the reports we've read, that Hull FC are too keen on doing that. Is that a blow?
I think it's a blow, but I understand. And the Rhinos, I don't think it's something we would have been able to do because of some of the things that some of the partners and some of the deals that we have at the club. We need them home games for the partnerships and stuff. So I understand from a whole perspective, but we have to find a way. There's a bigger picture.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the NRL, they're obviously, look, they've got much more resource. They're financially in a better place than where our game is, but they're making conscious efforts to continually grow the game. Do we ask our owners of clubs to roll the dice and make sure that they're involved in that for the bigger picture within the game, or is it just really easy sat here with not the full understanding of what that financially looks like?
I mean, I don't understand all the figures, and I probably can't comment too much on that, but we have to find, Hull are amazing for what they've done, taking the game to Vegas and losing, I suppose everything that they would receive from a home game. It's probably a big financial sort of loss, especially with the Rhinos travelling there. But again, for me, there's a bigger picture to this. There's a game-wide, I suppose, feel to this now, and we have to find a way to continue this, because I think it's something that's important.
Is it no coincidence how the 4 clubs that will, by the end of next week, take part in Vegas, you'd probably argue they're the 4 richest clubs in the game? Super League.
Yeah. No, and I get that, and it's easy for us to sit here and criticise. We're not in some of these other clubs' positions, and you've got to balance the books, and you've got to try and be a business alongside a rugby league club. So I get it, and I understand some of these clubs are probably not in a position to just say, right, we'll write it off and go to Las Vegas for the good of the game. They probably can't do that, but as a game, we should be helping out. Our governing body should be probably getting involved and making sure this happens, because it's too good an opportunity to turn down for me.
Well, I mentioned the Middle East and I mentioned the Far East as well, but there has been reports in that same sort of discussion about bringing the NRL to England, as the NFL have done in the past and continue to still do. Would that probably be a safer option? Do you think the English fans would certainly go down to, I don't know, a Wembley and watch?
State of origin. I think there should be a state of origin in Manchester or London.
Well, they're moving. Well, they're going to New Zealand, aren't they? Yeah. So big shout there from Danny McGuire, state of origin.
I think a state of origin at Wembley. You'd
easy. It would become like, you hear about England at Twickenham. They could sell it twice over. I'd probably argue that you could sell Origin twice over in London, given how many sort of expats and everything are living there. I think for sure.
Imagine how many people from Yorkshire and Lancashire would want to go to London and do it. Logistically, it probably just doesn't work.
Is that not sad though, Magsy? Sorry, jump. Is that not sad that we had the Ashes down there, and the crowd was underwhelming?
Yeah.
But yeah, if we put Origin there, it would fill it once plus more over. Is that not sad?
I think that's more of where the international game's at, though, isn't it? I think you just nailed it then. Twickenham, England and Ireland, you could sell it probably 3 times over. And I've been to Twickenham a few times, and not many people are watching the game. They're drinking the Guinness and having fun, and we've got to find a way to make that our international game stronger. But I don't think there's any international games this year until the World Cup, so there's no real excitement or reason to get behind it. I think everyone's sort of territorial out there and behind the clubs and support the clubs, and then when England comes about, they jump across. But the Union have got it really good at the minute, and something we probably could look at trying to. I don't know the answer, by the way, but it is sad that Origin probably would sell and our international game struggles.
Well, look, we've said lots of things during this show. Again, we want to hear from you guys at home, and what a place to leave it there. Danny Maguire calling for Origin in London. Let us know what you think. Comment away on anything that we spoke about in this show. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, swipe and hit that hype button as well, so we can keep bringing you more and more shows. Look, Magsy, all the best out in Las Vegas. Hope everything goes as well as you want it to. And for you guys at home, thanks for listening and watching. Take care, and we'll see you next week.